Monday, February 8th, 2021, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community and our state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer newsreaders. Today, we're joined by Daniel Rayburn. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for being here to read the news this morning. I know we've got a full docket of stories, so I'm going to let you get to it and go listen on Cypress Street.
Thank you. Good morning, Acadiana. It is my pleasure to be here with you once again, bringing you the news of the day. We do have quite a few headlines to look at, so we will start as we always do in the Acadiana area with our first headline, which reads, Downtown Lafayette grapples with parking. Input from residents and businesses sought. And this is written by Adam Daigle. Downtown Lafayette officials want to set up a steering committee regarding parking downtown and establish a parking benefit district. Speaking during a Wednesday morning forum on parking downtown, Anita Bagno, CEO of the Downtown Development Authority, said downtown officials have spoken with City Councilman Glenn Lazard on several occasions and are seeking input from residents and business owners to help address the issue. The forum came after a proposal last month from the Lafayette Consolidated Government that would have doubled the rates and increased enforcement. Quote, the last couple of weeks have taught us that someone needs to take the lead of making sure that parking is business and user-friendly and a positive experience, Bagno said. DDA feels like we need to be in the leadership role since we're in the closest to parking outside of LCG, who manages it, because we represent property owners. It's really important to their success and their livelihood. The proposal would have raised the hourly rate for parking downtown from 50 cents to $1 and upped enforcement to 24 hours a day. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory held off enforcing that mandate and said he, quote, wanted more discussion going forward, Bagno said. Downtown business and property owners were blindsided by the move, which was announced late on a Friday afternoon. Had it been approved, downtown residents would have had to pay parking meters throughout the night. Contacted Wednesday, Lazard described the initial move as premature and cited the need for a comprehensive plan involving input from all involved parties. A comprehensive plan involves not just meters, but also parking, lighting, infrastructure, all those components. Quote, we thought the proposal was really premature, he said. We thought that they should have gotten input from stakeholders prior to going into effect. It's time for us to stop doing something piecemeal, especially in the downtown area. I think it was the right decision to put it on hold, pending input in the development of a more comprehensive plan. Much of Wednesday's forum involved posing questions to those in attendance either in person or online. One question posed was to name 3 things LCG could do immediately to improve parking, and 2 of the leading responses were to put some parking revenue back into downtown and use technology apps or kiosks to make the payment process easier. A parking benefit district would dedicate revenue collected from parking to the areas inside the district. Currently, money collected from parking meters downtown fund the Lafayette Consolidated Government's parking department, Bagno said, with excess going into LCG's general fund. The majority of the city's parking meters are located downtown, Bagno said, with a handful of meters near Ochsner Lafayette General and the Oil Center. The Lafayette Consolidated Government should treat parking as an essential utility, she said. Another question asked if users should not go downtown solely because of the parking issue. A third of the respondents said they do. Quote, we're really working hard to build our retail base in downtown Lafayette, Bagno said. But there's so much retail across Lafayette. We've got to make it easy, convenient, and an enjoyable experience so we can continue to grow that base and continue to drive people down here to holiday shop, buy gifts, and do fun things with their families. The public perception of parking, she noted, is pretty poor. Respondents were also asked to rate the experience on a scale from 1 to 10, with one being the worst, and the responses averaged a 3. Quote, "We know downtown needs to start working to figure this out," she said. "We don't have all the answers and specifics, but what we do know is Lafayette can do better when it comes to the downtown parking experience." And now, we'll move to our next headline, which reads, "Diversity is Two Lafayette Women's Business." This is written by Megan Wyatt. Two Lafayette women managed to turn a diverse community event into a national consulting business in the middle of a pandemic. In 2019, Skyra Rito and Elsa Dimitriadis challenged Lafayette to talk about the uncomfortable with the longest table, which brought together a diverse group of about 300 people for conversations about race relations over a meal of rice and red beans. Now, they're challenging companies to change the way they think about diversity and inclusion within their organizations through a similar approach that focuses on honest conversation between employees from every facet of a company. Quote, "A lot can be uncomfortable for companies," Rito said. It's really saying when you're thinking about your hiring, who's staying and who's not staying. It's looking at what culture you have that makes it psychologically safe or psychologically unsafe for certain things to exist at your company. A company's dress code, for example, might be discriminatory against people from certain cultures, genders, or religions. Quote, "What is a dress code?" Rito said. "What idea or identity is a dress code upholding? Are we saying we have to wear this because we think that people dressed like this don't deserve to work here? What is your culture saying, and how is it being inviting to people that you're trying to employ?" Rito and Dimitriadis have worked with companies across the country through Conversation Starters, their nonprofit organization turned for-profit consulting firm. Among their clients are CGI, a global IT and business consulting firm, and Ochsner, Louisiana's largest nonprofit and academic healthcare system. Quote, "We do a pre-survey and a post-survey to measure a company's cultural competency, workplace satisfaction, and continued opportunity for growth. The results were incredible. The perspective shifts that happen after just one conversation over dinner have been so significant that they've chosen for us to continue along this path and do a deep dive in the coming months." At CGI, 3 pilot dinners were held before the pandemic in Birmingham, Alabama, Denver, Colorado, and Boston, Massachusetts. The IT company is hoping to replicate the diverse dinners in more than 50 metros across the country, but the coronavirus has halted that. Instead, CGI shifted from focus to virtual listening sessions and employee surveys. Quote, "The Conversation Starter survey, coupled with the dinners, provide a forum for our employees to be able to express themselves about the workplace culture and how we can be even more inclusive," said CGI spokesperson Ali Sabo. "It gives them an opportunity to be heard and to develop relationships and to get to know one another on a deeper level in terms of their background or culture or what's important to them." At Ochsner, Rito and Dimitriadis recently facilitated a 3-day training session for the healthcare system's regional diversity officers. The training involved team-building activities that helped the employees share their stories, highlighting their own diversity, while learning techniques about how to better facilitate difficult discussions without shutting down the conversation. Quote, "I really think it's great because it was very interactive, and it wasn't just a cookie-cutter approach," said Deborah Grimes, Ochsner's Chief Diversity Officer. "A lot of times, this kind of training is one way. They give you a lot of information, but you don't get to implement it in real time. They were very creative in tailoring it to meet our needs and allowing us to practice." Danielle Fastring, a statistician who works with Conversation Starters, helps to quantify the consultation and community events through surveys of participants before and after the encounters. The surveys collect demographic information, along with information on participants' cultural competency and feelings towards diversity, equity, and inclusion in their community or organization. Ultimately, the goal of conversation starter events is to move people along a continuum from uninformed to informed to concerned, and concerned to called to action. Quote, "We find that just by participating in one Catalyst dinner, participants experience a statistically significant movement from the lower two categories to the two upper categories, uninformed, informed to concerned, called to action," Fastring said. At the organizational level, Fastring said pre- and post-surveys show a significant increase of up to 25% change among team members for indicators of leadership diversity, ability to voice concerns, and a sense of belonging and respect. Quote, "When employees feel as though their voice is heard, and they belong, and are respected by their peers and people in leadership, this translates into employee retention," Fastring said. Conversation starters started in 2017 as a series of public forums about race relation in Lafayette. It grew into a more concrete concept after receiving funding in 2018 through the 24-Hour Citizens Project, a Shark Tank-style event that pairs investors with ideas. The longest table in March 2019 was a game changer for conversation starters. Participant surveys demonstrated how perceptions changed through the cross-racial dialogue, and people from around the country reached out in hopes of replicating the event in their communities. Quote, "Even though we're doing this work now on a state and national level, it's important for us to make sure that we're continuing to invest in Lafayette because that's where the work started," Dimitriadis said. "That's where our heart is. That's where we want to invest not only our resources, but our time and our expertise as well." In addition to their consulting work, Dimitriadis and Rido host community events to help change the conversation around race relations. Upcoming online events include an essential facilitation training, which happens from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., March 6th, 13th, and 20th, and a series on race conversations, which happens from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., Thursdays through March 4th. Learn more at startwithconversation.com. And now, we will take a short break from the headlines for this PSA. The Dream Foundation of Acadiana will offer the public free sign language classes beginning on Friday, January 22nd at 4 p.m. via Zoom. Classes will be held online every Friday at 4 p.m. The meeting ID number is 865-4014-5179. The class will be instructed by Myra Muta, special education teacher. Quote, "There are many benefits to learning sign language. It introduces you to a new culture and community. It helps improve your peripheral vision and reaction time, and you can meet new people and make new friends," commented Muta. For more information about the sign language series, contact Dreams Foundation ACA at gmail.com and join the Facebook event for updates regarding the class, which can be found at www.facebook.com/Dreams Foundation of Acadiana. The Disability Resources Education Activities Management and Services Foundation of Acadiana, or DREAMS, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization and was incorporated in 2007 to help individuals with special needs and their families. Please follow Dreams Foundation of Acadiana on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And now, we will return to our headlines from across the Acadiana area with our next, which reads, ProfessorUrges talk on racial issues. Foster's lecture at Core of Library Controversy moved to UL campus. And this is written by Ken Stickney. Theodore Foster's early introduction to Acadiana has included teaching at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette during a global health crisis, experiencing a community that suffered a racially charged, fatal police shooting of a local black man, and now participating in an unquiet controversy involving a public discussion about voting rights that he was supposed to help lead at the local library. Fear not, Foster, 33, an African-American studies assistant professor, was born and reared in Birmingham, Alabama, a smoky industrial city that once bore the derisive name Bombingham for dynamite attacks there on black people during the 1950s and 1960s. He's well familiar with contentious public issues. It was in Birmingham that 4 black girls were killed in a white supremacist bombing at the 16th Street Baptist Church. It was there that Bull Connor, public safety commissioner, ordered fire hoses to be turned against black children who were marching in opposition to segregation. It was there that the city elected its first black mayor after a police shooting of a black resident. So Foster came about his interest in black history, culture, and voting rights honestly, having walked the same streets where so much of the most important moments in the nation's civil rights history occurred. Lafayette is a different town, he said, with a different history and demographics from Birmingham. But he likes his new home city and wants to play an important part in it. Quote, Lafayette feels a lot like Montgomery. It's a small southern town, but not too small for me. I appreciate that. Lafayette history and culture, I'm interested in that, he said. There are ways, too, in which the colonial past influences the present. In Birmingham, it was the Civil War and industry. Here, it's sugarcane and oil. He's interested in exploring not just Lafayette and its historic neighborhoods, but also the towns and rural hamlets that surround it. Opelousas, Abbeville, and the others. There's a depth of culture here, he said, that invites newcomers, adding, quote, I've always wanted to teach at a place like this. In large part, his UL students, at least several who responded to the website Rate My Professor, believe Foster is in the right place. They rated him a bit above average. Some call him a caring professor who assigns challenging text. There is no easy A in his classroom. You've got to do the reading and respond to the challenges he sets before them. Some students, some community members, too, may not like intellectual and social challenges. Quote, nice guy, awesome lectures, a lot of writing instead of memorization, one response said. He tends to answer questions with questions, and I hate that, wrote another. Quote, tests are usually open-ended, so not reading is not a choice. Foster's road to Lafayette traveled through his hometown, where he earned his bachelor's degree at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, then turned north for his master's at Ohio State University. He taught as an adjunct at UAB, and then headed north again to the prestigious Northwestern University near Chicago for his doctorate. His scholarly interests include African American history and civil rights history, but also black culture, including dance, immigration, justice groups, the broader black freedom movement, feminism, and more. Quote, I've enjoyed returning to the South, he said. It has a huge impact on how I think about race, resistance, and contemporary struggles. In the summer, he'll be researching Projecting Archives, the politics of Black Chicago history, memory, and civil rights, a project supported by the Black Metropolis Research Consortium. Of late, Foster has found himself at the center of the public library controversy over a program funded by the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities that will center on public discussions of books related to the topic, who gets to vote? It will involve voting rights and some uncomfortable issues of race. The library's Board of Control declined the grant money because some members said the discussion would not involve presenting two sides of the issue, which they said was a prerequisite for hosting the program. Foster, they suggested, would present a liberal side without an intellectual and ideological foul. The board's action drew widespread criticism from desperate sources that included the American Library Association, the Washington Post, and even UL President Joseph Savoy, who defended his faculty member and the idea of public discussion of contentious issues. So did State Senator Gerald Boudreaux, Democrat of Lafayette. Now that public discussion is apparently headed to the Edith Dupree Library at UL, which has secured the grant that the local library turned down. Foster said such public discussions provide an opportunity to help the community. Event details will follow. Quote, "We need to give space for people to be heard," Foster said. "I don't get the sense that this community has opened up avenues for everyone." He said in cities like Chicago, young Black people flock to public events to weigh in with their opinions. Quote, "We could do a better job in this city," he said. "Black folk have to be heard." In terms of community discussion, book discussions about Black history are woefully lacking in this area. There is a sense of indifference. It starts at the top and trickles down. He was especially proud that UL and its president weighed in on the side of public discussion. Quote, "I'm not new to the South's politics, racial politics, and Black politics. I'm teaching mostly Black students in an area where they are thirsty for Black history. I feel I am serving an important purpose here." And with that, we will continue on to our next headline. And it reads, Lafayette Library Board vacancy draws 7 applicants. Panel under scrutiny after grant rejection. And this is written by Claire Taylor. A vacancy on the Lafayette Parish Library Board of Control is drawing more attention than usual since a controversial decision to kill a voting rights book discussion because of a majority of board members decided the moderators were too left-leaning. 7 people applied for the single position on the volunteer library board. The Lafayette Parish Council is expected to fill that vacancy Tuesday. Normally with board appointments, parish council members will nominate 1 or 2 applicants from the list, and the 5 members vote. The person with the most votes is appointed. Library supporters are paying close attention since 5 recent appointees to the 7-member board voted January 25th to kill a $2,700 Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities grant. Board member Stephanie Armbruster said the moderators were, quote, extremely far left-leaning and were, quote, not going to represent the other side. Armbruster protested against the library in 2018 when it scheduled a drag queen storytime event in which men were to dress as women and read stories to children. Board members, in rejecting the grant, said they wanted library director Teresa Elbertson to get a conservative moderator to balance the left-leaning professors, but that she ignored their orders. Elbertson, who retired days later, said she contacted the discussion leaders to point out the board's concern and asked that they represent all points of view. Some board members said that they were trying to keep the book discussion apolitical and were concerned about losing public support from conservative voters for an upcoming property tax renewal. The library's own programming policy gives, quote, ultimate responsibility for programming to the library director. According to the policy, sponsorship of a program, quote, does not constitute an endorsement of the content of the program or the views expressed by the participants. Program topics, speakers, and resources are not excluded from programs because of possible controversy. The board's decision to reject the grant grew criticism and outrage from the NAACP, State Senator Gerald Boudreaux of Lafayette, the Lafayette League of Women Voters, and the American Library Association. On Friday, Voice of the Experienced Lafayette also criticized the move, writing in a news release, quote, When democratic institutions decide not to share facts because of fear, or worse, disagreement with the facts, we must question the institution itself. The library board applicants include Andre Bro of Lafayette, Vice President of Policy Initiatives and Governmental Affairs with One Acadiana, who has a bachelor's degree from Loyola University in New Orleans and a master's degree from the University of Arkansas, and served on the South Louisiana Community College Foundation Board. Frank Del Favero of Lafayette, a professor in the Department of Educational Foundation and Leadership at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, who has worked at UL since 2005. He served as principal and assistant principal at several schools in New York. Robert Judge of Lafayette, founder, president, and CEO of R.L. Judge and Associates, a risk management firm. He previously taught at Lafayette High and was a coach at several local schools, and has a bachelor's degree in secondary science education from UL. Christy Molloy of Lafayette, an associate professor in the political science department at UL, who has been with the university since 2015. She's been involved with the Lafayette League of Women's Voters, Leadership Lafayette, and the 705. Shelley Mautran II, a workers' compensation and personal injury attorney in Lafayette and a former district judge candidate. He did not submit a resume, just a 2-sentence note saying he would like to be considered for the position. Jerry Montz of Youngsville, an information technology professional with a bachelor's degree in business administration from Mississippi University for Women. He has worked in IT in Mississippi and Louisiana since 1999. And finally, Clay Weil of Lafayette has spent more than 20 years at institutions of higher learning in teaching and administration, including at UL, LSU, and South Louisiana Community College. He currently teaches at LSU. The parish council meeting begins at 4:30 Tuesday at City Hall, located at 705 West University Avenue. And with that, we will now once again take a short break from our headlines to bring you our Today in History, famous birthdays, and the daily horoscope. We'll begin with our Today in History, which is brought to us by the Associated Press. Today is Monday, February 8th, the 39th day of 2021. There are 326 days left in the year. Today's highlights in history include: on February 8, 1952, Queen Elizabeth II proclaimed her ascension to the British throne following the death of her father, King George VI. On this date, in 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, was beheaded in England after she was implicated in a plot to murder her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. In 1693, a charter was granted for the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg in the Virginia colony. In 1831, Rebecca Lee Crumpler, the first black woman to earn a medical degree in the United States, was born in Delaware. In 1924, the first execution by gas in the United States took place at the Nevada State Prison in Carson City, as Ji Zhan, a Chinese immigrant convicted of murder, was put to death. In 1960, work began on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, located on Hollywood Boulevard and Vine Street in Los Angeles. In 1971, NASDAQ, the world's first electronic stock exchange, held its first trading day. In 1973, Senate leaders named 7 members of a select committee to investigate the Watergate scandal, including its chairman, Senator Sam J. Ervin, Democrat, North Carolina. In 1989, 144 people were killed in an American-chartered Boeing 707 filled with Italian tourists slammed into a fog-covered mountain in the Azores. In 2007, model, actor, and tabloid sensation Anna Nicole Smith died in Hollywood, Florida at the age of 39 of an accidental drug overdose. In 2010, Michael Jackson's personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, pleaded not guilty to involuntary manslaughter in the death of the pop superstar in Los Angeles Superior Court. Murray was convicted in 2011 and served 2 years in prison. 10 years ago today, Wally Ghonim, a 30-year-old Google executive who'd helped ignite Egypt's uprising, appeared before protesters in Cairo's Tahrir Square for the first time after being released from detention. He told them, quote, "We won't give up." 5 years ago today, President Barack Obama asked Congress for more than $1.8 billion in emergency funding to fight the Zika virus and the mosquitoes that were spreading it in the United States and abroad, but said, quote, "There shouldn't be a panic on this." And 1 year ago today, the U.S. Embassy in Beijing said a 60-year-old U.S. citizen who'd been diagnosed with the coronavirus had died on February 5th in Wuhan. It was apparently the first American fatality from the virus. And now shifting to today's famous birthdays. We'll start with composer-conductor John Williams, who's turned 89 today. Broadcast journalist Ted Koppel is 81. Actor Nick Nolte has turned 80. Comedian Robert Klein is 79 today. Actor rock musician Creed Branton is 78. Singer Ron Tyson is 73. Actor Brooke Adams is 72 today. Actor Mary Steenburgen is 68. Author John Grisham is 66. Retired NBA All-Star and College Basketball Hall of Famer Marquise Johnson turned 65 today. The former president of the Philippines, Binago Aquino III, is 61. Rock singer Vince Neil of Motley Crue has turned 60. Former Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lisa P. Jackson is 59 today. Actor Missy Yeager has turned 53. Actor Mary McCormick is 52. Basketball Hall of Famer Alonzo Mourning has turned 51. Actor Susan Meiser has turned 50 today. Dance musician Guy Manuel de Homing Cristo of Daft Punk is 47. Actor Seth Green is 47 as well today. Rock musician Phoenix of Linkin Park is 44. Actor William Jackson Harper has turned 41. Folk singer-musician Joey Ryan of the Milk Carton Kids has turned 39 today. Actor-comedian Cecily Strong is 37. Rock musician Jeremy Davis has turned 36. Hip-hop artist Anderson .Paak is 35. And finally, actor Ryan Pinkson has turned 33 today. And now we will take a look at our daily horoscope. We begin with Aquarius, which is birth dates of January 20th to February 19th. Be cautious when dealing with a friend, relative, or peer. Avoid a fight by finding common ground. Diplomacy, respect, and courtesy will pay off. Tell someone special how much you love them. For Pisces, which is February 20th to March 20th birthdays. You can make a positive lifestyle or professional change. Take pride in what you do, and you will make an impression on someone who can help you excel. Now is the time to get things done. For Aries, which is birth dates of March 21st to April 19th, take responsibility and accomplish what you set out to do. Pay attention to a loved one in order to avoid an unnecessary scene. Do your best to deal with sensitive issues in a timely manner. For Taurus, which is April 20th to May 20th birth dates, Your changing attitude will confuse those who deal with you today. Try not to venture too far off the beaten path when explaining what you expect or want. For Gemini, which is birthdays of May 20th to June 20th. Live and learn. You'll be offered insight into something that you can use to get ahead. Practice what you preach. You'll avoid allowing someone the opportunity to make you look bad. For Cancer, which is birthdays of June 21st to July 22nd. Concentrate on making positive changes in your life and meaningful relationships. Refuse to let jealousy get in the way of reason. A positive attitude will help you reach your objective. For Leo, which is July 23rd to August 22nd birthdays. Don't let work or your colleagues agitate you. Go about your business and finish what you start. Leave no room for criticism or complaints. If you want to make a change, do so using your Leo charm. For Virgo, which is August 23rd to September 22nd birthdays. Stay poised and listen carefully. Someone you least expect will offer insight into something you find challenging. Sharing common interest will lead to a valuable conversation. For Libra, which is birthdays of September 23rd to October 23rd. Envision how you want your space to function. A couple of changes can quickly put an end to inconvenience. Share your feelings with a loved one, and it will pave a way to a better lifestyle. For Scorpio, which is birthdays of October 24th to November 22nd, pay close attention to detail. Don't expect a decision you make to please everyone. A friend or relative will offer sound reasons why you should slow down and rethink your plans. For Sagittarius, which is birthdays of November 23rd to December 21st. Past experience will help you decipher who is being upfront with you and who isn't. Trust your instincts and make your decision clear. It's better not to linger. Romance is encouraged. And finally, for our Capricorns, which is birthdays of December 22nd to January 19th. Make a decision for the right reason. Don't let anger or stubbornness cause bad blood between you and a friend or a relative. Make positive changes. And with that, we will make a return to our headlines. Moving away from the Acadiana area, we will broaden our scope to headlines from around the state of Louisiana. And our first state headline reads, Homeschooling grows as classrooms become less dependable. This is written by Will Sintel. Already on the rise, the ranks of homeschooled students in Louisiana is getting another boost because of families disgruntled with how public schools are operating during the coronavirus pandemic. The number of homeschooled students is 33,001 as of October 1st, a 4% increase over the previous year, and a 10% hike for homeschooled students who hope to qualify for college scholarships. The number of students taught at home has grown 23% in the past 5 years, and 76% in the past decade. They make up 5% of the state students' population, and the classroom upheaval sparked by the coronavirus pandemic, including inconsistent virtual education, is one of the reasons. Quote, there are so many who have pulled their kids out of school because of COVID, said Christopher Chin, president of Homeschool Louisiana, a networking group for parents and students. Classrooms were closed in March during the first wave of the pandemic, forcing educators to rely on virtual education, with mixed results. About 60% of students are getting in-person instruction during the current school year, but some schools have been plagued by stops and starts because of outbreaks of the virus, and students being sent home due to contact tracing. Chin said some families have opted for homeschooling because of what he called the lack of planning by school officials and the pitfalls for those who rely on distance learning. Quote, "I mean, these kids are getting written up because they turn their cameras off," Chin said, a reference to interruptions in virtual classes. Louisiana has two forms of homeschooling, both of which require families to sign up with the State Department of Education and to renew annually. Both are separate from students who are enrolled in public schools, but temporarily learning from home because of the pandemic. One is called the Bessie-approved Home Study Program, which means it is endorsed by the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. It allows families to independently educate their children, including which curriculum they use and what grade their child is in. The curriculum is supposed to mirror the quality of public schools. Parents pay all the cost and even create the high school diploma their child receives. Students in grades 11 and 12 have to be enrolled in the Bessie-approved program to qualify for the Taylor Opportunity Program for students and meet other requirements. Parents can also opt to have their children undergo state tests in math, English language arts, social studies, and science through their local school board. The ranks of that program rose from 13,672 in 2019 to 15,107 in 2020, one of the largest such hikes in the past 20 years. Between 2019 and 2020, students pursuing the Bessie-approved method of homeschooling rose from 124 to 373 in Orleans Parish, 464 to 604 in Jefferson Parish, 216 to 871 in Lafayette Parish, and 820 to 1,113 in St. Tammany Parish, according to figures kept by the State Department of Education. Quote, "They are realizing that homeschool is a viable education alternative," said Chin, whose groups include about 1,200 families statewide. The other homeschool program is the Registered Non-Public School Track, not seeking state approval, which had nearly 18,000 students at last count. Parents of those students also pick their own curriculum. Ty Salvant, owner and founder of NOLA Homeschoolers, said her roster of about 300 families has grown from 15% to 20% in the past year. Quote, "It can be anything from a particular school is not working out for their child, or their child may have some additional needs that are not being met, or a schedule that makes it challenging to follow the traditional model," Salvant said. The uptick in homeschooling in Louisiana is part of a national trend. Quote, "Solid evidence shows that homeschool numbers across the U.S. have risen by 50 to 100% since spring of 2020, Brian DeRay, president of the National Home Education Research Institute, said in an email. This is a giant one-year increase compared to growth over the past several years, Ray said. Ray's group says that there are between 4 million and 5 million homeschooled students nationwide. Associations have sprung up across Louisiana to help families navigate homeschooling and to give students social outlets, including the Ascension Parish Homeschoolers, the Baton Rouge Homeschool Athletic Association, New Orleans Homeschool Morning Playgroup, and the Roman Catholic Homeschool Association of Louisiana. State Representative Beryl Amidi, a Republican of Houma, whose 3 sons were homeschooled, said the number of families opting for homeschool is rising nationally because of the erratic nature of public school operations and because virtual education is not practical for some families. Quote, "All of a sudden, because of contact tracing, you have to stay home for 4 to 5 days," Amidi said of public school students. our next headline, which reads, Oyster harvesting to be banned on new reefs. Goal is to leave oysters in peace so they will spawn and spread population. And this is written by Haley Parker. To increase the number of oysters spawning on public water bottoms, Louisiana plans to forbid harvesting on 4 artificial reefs east of the Mississippi River in St. Bernard and Plaquemines parishes. With support from the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Commission, the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries published the notice Thursday, giving the public opportunity to comment on restricted access on 40 acres of reef. The department manages 900,000 acres east of the Mississippi. Quote, it will take up 0.004% of public seed grounds, said Carolina Bork, marine biologist for the department. By leaving the bivalves seated at peace on the reefs, state officials hope they will spread their spat on other reefs and replenish the number of oysters, now at a historic low. Where once public grounds were the backbone of Louisiana's oyster industry, they now produce less than 4% of all oysters harvested in the state. Quote, if those oysters in those reefs do spawn, they will provide resources for other reefs in those seeded grounds, Bork said. Settlement money from the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil disaster will cover the $9.7 million cost of piling shells and rocks for the new reefs at Lake Maike, Mozambique Point, Petite Pass, and Bay Boudreaux. These reefs will also be among the first projects implemented in Louisiana Draft Oyster Management and Rehabilitation Strategic Plan. Eventually, the state hopes to create a, quote, spawning stock sanctuary network that would maintain enough oysters to spawn and replenish its population. Goals include new reefs in Terrebonne, Iberia, Vermilion, and Cameron parishes. Though harvesting oysters would be forbidden on the 4 new reefs, Bork said the reefs will increase habitat for other fishery species, a benefit to anglers. The public may submit written comments on the proposed reef access rules through April 1st to Denise Kinsey, marine fisheries biologist at P.O. Box 98000, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70898, or by email at dkinsey@wlf.la.gov. And now, we will move into the world of sports to bring you the final headline of the day, which reads, Starbucks. Tom Brady wins Super Bowl number 7. Buccaneers blow out Chiefs at home. And this is written by Rob Mahdi of the Associated Press. Tom Brady made his 7th Super Bowl title look familiar, despite moving south to a new team and conference during a pandemic. Brady threw 2 touchdown passes to old friend Rob Gronkowski and 1 to good pal Antonio Brown, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City 31-9 on their home field in Super Bowl 55 on Sunday. The greatest of all time extended his Super Bowl titles record in his 10th appearance, his first without Patriots coach Bill Belichick. The 43-year-old Brady broke his own mark for oldest player to win a Super Bowl and joins Hall of Famer Peyton Manning as the only quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl with multiple franchises. The Buccaneers, with an overall record of 15-5, won their 2nd NFL title and first in 18 years. while becoming the first team to play the big game at home, capping an unusual and challenging season played through the novel coronavirus. They won 3 road games as a wild card team to reach the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay's victory prevented Mahomes and the Chiefs, with an overall 16-3 record, from becoming the first repeat champions since Brady's Patriots did it in 2003 and 2004. Ex-LSU stars made their mark on the big game for the second straight year. Bucs running back Leonard Fournette, rushing for 89 yards, including a 26-yard touchdown run, and caught 4 passes for 46 more yards. Second-year linebacker Devin White led both teams with 12 tackles and intercepted Mahomes on the goal line on the Chiefs' final desperation drive. For Kansas City, Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushed for 64 yards and caught 2 passes for 23 more. Tyrann Mathieu was quieter, his most notable moment coming when he was called for an unsportsmanlike conduct after jawing back and forth with Brady just before halftime. The NFL completed its 269-game season on time without any cancellations, a remarkable accomplishment that required nearly 1 million COVID-19 tests for players and team personnel. Because of the virus, only 25,000 mask-wearing fans were allowed in, including approximately 7,500 vaccinated healthcare workers who were given free tickets by the NFL. About 30,000 cardboard cutouts made the stadium look full. Before we end today, we will look at the funerals today in the Acadiana area. And those include Teresa Devlin, with services at David Funeral Home, located at 316 Youngsville Highway in Lafayette, at 11 a.m. Rosemary Ernest, with service at Rose Hill Cemetery, at 1 p.m. Samuel Porter Sr., with service being held at Our Lady Queen of Peace Catholic Church at 11 a.m. Norris Thibodeau Sr. will have services at the Molossaw Funeral Home in Carencro at 3 p.m. And finally, Dominique Woods Jr., with services to be held at St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church in Mermentau at 11 a.m. And with that, this has been Local News Live for February 8th, 2021. And I have been your reader, Daniel Rayburn. Please join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you will join us again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great day, Acadiana.